Yes. This is a formula, y'all. See, the easy thing to do is when life starts to get a little scary or get a little crazy, we say, why is this happening to me? What's going wrong? But if you recognize that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transmuted into something new, when you bless it, that's what you're doing. You're changing the energy into that which you desire. So 21, can we sing our land? That song was inspired by Florence Scovel Shinn in The Game of Life and How to Play It. She tells the story of a woman, a mother, who was concerned about a trip that her daughter wanted to take, that she felt it was unsafe, and she really didn't want her daughter to take the trip. And, you know, being as parents do, we want to take control and say, no, you can't do this. But Florence Scovel Shinn advised that mother to just bless it and call it good, because what will happen is if that trip is not what she should be doing or where she should be going, it will be dissolved. But if it's something that's beneficial, it will be beneficial. But when you push against it, when you resist it, and we know that parents, yes, right? Then that just strengthens their argument and their resolve to do it anyway. Yes. So that was inspired by that story. And it's the truth of life, that when something's going on in your life and you may want to push against it or resist it in some way, or you're not sure what's going on, if you bless it and call it good and allow life to take control, allow God to take control, allow it to fight your battles on your behalf, watch your life change. Thank you so, 21. Yes. Yes. This is a formula, y'all. See, the easy thing to do is when life starts to get a little scary or get a little crazy, we say, why is this happening to me? What's going wrong? But if you recognize that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transmuted into something new, when you bless it, that's what you're doing. You're changing the energy into that which you desire. So 21, can we sing? I'm blessed.
Yes, yes, yes. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Pride Sunday, New York Pride Sunday. It is good to be with each and every one of you. It's good to see y'all. Let us begin as we always do with prayer. And this morning, our prayer champion, Reverend Shauna, will lead us in prayer.
Yes, yes.
Good morning, beautiful people. Happy Sunday and happy Pride Month. Let's close our eyes and breathe in and breathe out as we turn within to that inner knowing where all minds are joined together. I call this the God mind, the all-powerful, the creator of everything, the first cause, and the source of everything visible and invisible. I know this love reaches me wherever I am in consciousness, in physicality, in mind, body, and spirit always. You and I are enveloped in love. We are God's pride and joy. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. I know that right where I am, right where I breathe, and right where I pray is the power of God's presence, the garment covering the very life of me. I experience my thoughts with my emotions and expectations and receive abundant manifestations. And as God works in my life, so God works in yours as well. I rejoice in this new day of so many possibilities. And as we fill up our tanks today with good thoughts and good words, quiet meditation and uplifting song, we raise our vibration. We start today and this week knowing who and whose we are. We have total gratitude for a life filled with an overflow of good, knowing that our words are working for us. As I breathe in that goodness, I embrace and accept today with open arms the reservoir of good that is mine. With open arms, I accept the reservoir of sweet prosperity and delicious abundance that is mine today. I accept the reservoir of love that is mine today. I accept the reservoir of magnificent opportunities that are mine today. I accept the reservoir of unlimited possibilities that are ours today. I am so grateful and so thankful for all the ways in which the universe supports me and affirms the well-being of my life and that call for love and justice to be made real all over the world. So with total joy and acceptance, I release this word back into the universal principle of unlimited giving, back to a loving law that yields to my every need, and I know that all is well. So I say amen, ashe, and so it is.
Amen.
Ashe.
And so it is, and so it is. Thank you, Reverend Shauna. Well, hello again and welcome. Happy Sunday, happy Pride Sunday. It is so good to be here with each and every one of you on this day as we take this time to know the truth of who and whose we are, to know that we are the magnificent and significant because God lives, moves, and has its being in, through, and as us. Well, many of you, I see in the comments, as we see family, we see the CSC family is represented, but I know that there may just be one that's here today for the very first time, and we want to welcome you. We say hello, and we would love to stay in touch with you. We're happy that you took the time to join us today, knowing that you could stream anywhere, and everybody and their mama is streaming. We're happy that you chose to take the time to hang out with us here at CSC. And so if you would like to stay in touch with us, it's very easy. You see the information here on your screen. Just text the word welcome to 347-472-1078. Just the word welcome, no additional words or emojis or signatures, because computers don't recognize that. So you just need the one word, boom, you hit that word, and then you will receive a response back with a link. Tap the link, enter your information. Once you've submitted your information, you will receive another text confirming that you're all set and that you've been added to our mailing list. And once you're added to our mailing list, then you can get all the wonderful information, some things that we'll share today, links and other valuable information that will support you and getting involved and being involved in our community, and also staying connected to this good thing we have going on here in Brooklyn. So with that said, let's get into the announcements, and so we can get into the meditation and get into class and all the other wonderful things we have happening.
All right, let's do it.
Well, I already said Happy Pride, Happy New York Pride, but this is the last Sunday of Pride, but also an important Sunday as it relates to us as New Yorkers. Of course, Pride originates from a protest, a riot, an uprising at Stonewall, which is very important, and we give love and honor to the mother of the movement, Marsha P. Johnson.
Yes.
Recognizing her significance to this movement and recognizing what the movement is really all about. And so New York Pride is just special for that reason. It's why people come from all around the world to be here in New York for Pride. And so it's always a joy to honor and celebrate Pride as a spiritual community. It's been a joy to march in the Pride March as a spiritual community and affirm what we have been affirming since day one, that love is louder. Love is louder than the voice of fear. Love is louder than the foolishness and the hate and all of the other stuff that's going on. And so to our LGBTQ plus family, we see you, we love you, we honor you. We know that you are God in form. We know that God loves you, and we are grateful to be your pastors.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
We're grateful to embody that love.
Absolutely. From day one, before day one, we knew who we were, and we've always known who you are.
Yes, yes.
And so we celebrate that every day, 365 up in CSC.
Exactly. We don't need just a day.
We don't need a day or a month
to do that.
But we do honor this celebration here in New York, all over the country, all over the world. We love you because you are love, we are love, and that is all that exists.
Affirmation you can use for today: I am God's pride and joy.
Yes, I am God's pride and joy.
Yes.
Take that with you out into the celebration.
Absolutely. We are a church that believes in prayer. We are a church that is founded, rooted, and grounded in prayer. Our deep roots come from prayer. And so one of the things that we do, we gather every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Momentum Prayer Call. It's a wonderful time to check back in and tap back in. You know, we have the joy of Sunday, and we have the knowledge and the teaching and all of the wonderful things that happen on Sunday, and you may leave on a high. But it seems that something happens on Monday and Tuesday. And so it's wonderful to have an opportunity to just reconnect, to realign, to tap back in on Wednesday morning. We share a reading that day. In addition to the reading, we pray. It's either led by PY or myself or one of the prayer champions. That prayer is also recorded. So you see the playback information there. You can access the most recent prayer 24/7. Just simply dial that number, enter the access code, and wait, and the most recent prayer will pray. But we look forward to seeing you there live. It is a wonderful way to start your day. It is a wonderful way to establish the vibration for your day, which is part of the intention of that prayer.
Absolutely. So anytime you need it, you need that reminder, tune in, dial up that playback.
Yes. We also recognize that you may have prayer requests, and so you can send an email to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. That's received by our prayer champions. It's received by the two of us, and we are constantly holding the high watch and holding the high vibration for everyone, right? Because we know that even when it's an email and somewhat anonymous in the sense of it's not shared with everyone, still sometimes you don't reach out. Still sometimes you don't send an email. And so we're always holding the high watch. We're always seeing and knowing the best for each and every one of you. But we know that you may request prayer for yourself or a family member, a friend, a coworker. This is your resource. Do not hesitate to send that email to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org.
Yes.
And also, do not hesitate to send your praise reports, the report of your answered prayer to us as well, because we love hearing that and we love seeing that as well.
Absolutely. No prayer request is too big or too small.
Yes. Next Sunday is the 4th of July. This kind of puts us in a unique position because we rarely does it occur that a holiday happens on a Sunday. And so we will not be streaming live next Sunday. We will be streaming content on Sunday. So if you want, some a CSC fix, you'll be able to get some of that good CSC vibration next Sunday. But we will not be streaming live. I was thinking about it earlier this week. We cannot be a church and pastors that teach rest as spiritual practice and not take the day off. Sunday is not any more important than any other day, right? And so this is a holiday. We're going to honor it. We want you to honor the holiday in whatever way you choose. And when I say the holiday, I mean that you have time off. So, you don't have to celebrate Independence Day, but we do want you to take that time for yourself, honor that time. And again, we teach rest as a spiritual practice, right? So we take the day off. And I think, again, as the pastors of this church, we can't just talk about that. We have to model that. And we are in the final week. We are in the final week of this wonderful, powerful True Sunday Masterclass, Studying the Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel-Shin. This We Got Game class has been a lot of fun and a joy for us to teach and to share. What we're going to be doing today is really PYGs, takeaways, things that we think you should, take with you and remember, some things that each of us think are important. It'll be fun because we haven't shared it with each other, so we're just going to kind of riff off of where Spirit leads us. So we encourage you that if you've missed a class or if this is your first time, go back, right? You have 10 weeks, 10 chapters. Do not try to digest it all, right? If you're just coming to this, if you're just hearing about this, get the book. The link is here in the post on YouTube and Facebook. And once you have the book, read the first chapter, then watch the class, right? Then read the next chapter, watch the class, right? Take it in small bites, week by week, okay? But again, I can't say it enough. It's been fun. It's been such a joy to teach this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, oh, this is good.
Yeah. All right. So I think it is time for meditation. And PY will lead and guide us as she always does.
I love this view of the ocean. The going out and the coming in of the waves. I love the thought that we can cast the burden, that there is nothing that we must hold on to. I love this month because we have been affirming this thought: I can cast my burdens on the mind of God and go free. Thank you, Florence Scovel-Shin. Meditation is an important component of spiritual practice. It is something that brings us to a different understanding of God. It gives us a direct connection and experience of God. As I like to say, we can have all of this knowledge. We can have multiple degrees. We can have all kinds of books on our shelves. I've seen it quite often, where we have a whole lot of knowledge, but no direct experience of God. That's one thing my ancestors knew. They knew that God was alive within them, and they celebrated that aliveness, and they never hesitated to cast the burden. And so this month has been a beautiful understanding of casting the burden, and not just casting the burden, but then going free. And if that requires continual casting, that's what you do. But as we are in this celebration of joy and pride, we must cast our burdens on that superconscious mind. We don't have to hold it. We're not going to receive more points for holding it. We might as well let it go and be led by this connection, this experience of God in the right direction. So, let's prepare for our meditation, our meditative time, our time of feeling God alive within us. So go ahead, look around the room, and notice that you are in a safe place. Take that in and just let your body absorb the safety. Absorb the safety as your shoulders relax over your hips and your vertebrae stack nice and easy on top of each other. And we begin to breathe as we notice our surroundings, whether we are seated upright in a chair, on our bed, on our sofa. We are free to just embody the goodness and the safety of our home. And so, from this place of safety and comfort, let's close our eyes now. Nice and easy, gentle closing of the eyelids. And just noticing from within the breath, the body, and all the sensations. No judgment of any of it, just notice. Taking a few rounds here, just like the ocean going out and coming back. We just notice the breath right where it is. The waves of the ocean are not constricted. They just flow. And whether our breath has been or is deep or shallow, we sit in gratitude that it is always moving, that no experience is permanent, and we can move through and cast every burden on the mind of God and go free. One last round of breath to notice. And stand in appreciation of the breath. And now, because it is ours to do so, we take conscious control of the breath. Not from a hurried place, but from a gentle, soft place. We bring our focus and our breath, our attention, our connection into the low belly now. Together, inhale into the low belly. Expanding the low belly, making more room for that breath. Hold it there. Open the mouth and sigh it out, nice and easy. Gentle inhale, expand the low belly. Hold it there. Open the mouth, relax the jaw, and sigh it out. In through the low belly, gentle. Up through the rib cage, expands the front and the sides and the back of the body. Hold it there. And now sigh it out. A gentle movement. Inhale, expand. Up through the rib cage, same path, maybe opening up new areas. Hold it there. Sigh it out. Inhale into the low belly, up through the rib cage, now up through the heart. expanding the capacity and lengthening the lungs, feeling that connection into the heart. Hold it there. Sigh it out. And as we empty, we make room and give permission to fill. Inhale all the way in and up through the heart. Across the chest. Hold it there. Creating a new set point, new experience, new connection. And sigh it out. The emptying is just as important as the filling up. It's part of the cycle. So let's take some rounds here to practice releasing and receiving, breathing in and up. And this time, close the lips when you're ready and exhale through the nose. When we close the lips in this fashion, it elongates the breath. It slows it down even more. It signals the brain that all is well. There's nothing to fear or be anxious about. So let's practice a few rounds of our form of breathing. Each time giving permission for the release and the filling up. Each time casting the burden. Each time feeling more free. Last time. Relaxing more, allowing more. And just as the breath has been flowing this whole time, we now take control of the breath and send it into our bodies where we may be holding a burden. Unconsciously holding. And so we use the breath to give ourselves and our body permission to relax now. So together, as a community, let's send a breath into our feet. Notice if the toes are gripping or there's any tension in the feet. Maybe you raise the heels or wiggle the toes. Stop the movement. Release the breath and the feet now. Beautiful. Sending that energy and allowing it, giving room and permission for it to flow up through the soles of the feet. While we are grounded and connected, we don't have to grip. We can cast the burden. Energy flows up through, across the ankles. Relax the ankles. Sending that energy up the shins and the calves. We may notice some tension there. We may have been walking around with something on our mind and in our body. Let's surrender. Release the calves and the shins now. I cast the burden. I cast the past. I cast the future on the mind of God, and I go free. I send that freedom across the knees. Relax the knees. Energy flows across the thighs, the hamstrings, and the glutes. If you're holding any tension, release the thighs, the hamstrings, and the glutes. And surrender the lower half of the body as if it is floating, supported by the waves, supported by the ocean, supported by God. And as we lean back into this ocean of support and love, we feel the energy of God moving up, 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 up and out the crown of our head. And in our mind we lay back and allow ourselves to be supported by the energy that surrounds us, by the energy that connects us, and by the energy within us. From this relaxed, surrendered place, we allow this energy to flow back down through the crown, activating and balancing the third eye, opening the throat, relaxing the shoulders even more, nothing to hold on to. We cast the burden, we let it move out of our bodies, down our shoulders and out our fingertips, so that we can be free. Free to live in joy. Free to hear the guidance of God. Free to allow life to support us. Beautiful. And now if you want, you can turn the palms up to receive more. Or turn the palms down to ground. Either way, relax the shoulders back and down, nice and easy. Scan the body one last time. Notice if you're holding anything, any burden. Cast it on the mind of God now and go free. As we prepare for our silent time, if the mind wanders, it's okay. Bring it back to this affirmative thought. I cast my burdens on the mind of God, and I go free. I will monitor the time. You take the inward journey, knowing that freedom and joy are yours, and no burden is required. Cast it now. Go free. Now. I cast every burden, every thought that would keep me from knowing the truth of my being on the mind of God, and I go free. With my eyes closed, I feel God alive within me. With eyes closed, I notice the connection that can never be severed. With eyes closed, I feel the truth of my freedom. Remember this sensation, this feeling, this time you gave yourself. And if at any point during the week the mind becomes overactivated, you feel burdened, your body feels tight, close your eyes and take a few deep breaths and affirm this truth. I cast this burden on the mind of God and I go free. As we prepare for our return, maybe the breath begins to elongate. Maybe we plant the palms on the tops of the thighs and use a gentle motion to wake the thighs and the knees and the shins, calves, wiggle the toes. Almost as if you're waking from a nice, easy, gentle nap. Stop the movement. Inhale and draw the shoulders up by the ears. You'll feel some elongation in the spine. Nice and easy. Shoulders back. Release the breath as the shoulders relax down. Inhale. Shoulders up by the ears. Exhale as we gently relax the shoulders back and down. Inhale. Shoulders up. Nice and easy. Back and down. Bring palms together at heart center. Thumbs into sternum. And bow, nice and gentle. Head towards the fingertips. Noticing a slight opening in the base of the spine and the neck. Pausing to notice the breath as it flows across the fingertips. Bowing in honor of the time that we gave ourselves. Knowing that we could not be more worthy or more loved by God. And this loving presence doesn't want us to carry anything forward except our joy and our freedom. Slowly flutter the eyes open, taking in a point on the floor in front of you. Inhale, raise the chin. Raise the gaze. Release the breath. Namaste.
Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
So, as I shared, we are going to share some takeaways, some things that we have talked about in the course of these 10 weeks, and some things that we individually think are important for you to come back to remember, to apply, to practice We trust that this class has been impactful. You've sent in some questions throughout the week. We had some wonderful questions in the God Talk that were related last week. But what's most important is that you apply this to your life. We will say this over and over and over again, but let this not be oh, that was such an amazing class. That was so great. That was powerful. Oh, PYPG, blah, 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 right? And then your life hasn't changed, right? Because you haven't applied it. As the late, great Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman says, right? It works if you work it. We're teaching truth,
right? But
it only works if you work it.
Right. It has to. We can teach all the truth, but if it's not true for you because you haven't practiced it, integrated it, then it's just, again, information. You just checked off another box, another new thought text that you should have read. We want you to have lived these words. We want you to know this truth for yourself, right? Yes, you can hear us in your head, and that's good, and that's cool. Or yes, you can hear Florence Govashin. But until you have activated this truth and can hear it expressed in the way that makes sense for you, your situation, then again, it's just information, y'all.
Yep. Absolutely.
And while we're not going to quiz you on it, your life will give you the answers. It will tell you whether you are implementing and integrating these teachings.
Right. And so the first thing that I want to bring us to, which is something that we've repeated over and over and over again, and it's important. I think it can't be said enough, and it's something that I think many people have to hear many times to really get, right? And that's this piece, which he talks about in the very first chapter. Understanding that there are three aspects of mind: the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious, right? Now, the subconscious aspect of our mind is that aspect that doesn't do any thinking. It's the aspect of our mind that receives, right? And what does it receive? It receives impressions. It receives images. It receives input from a whole lot of places, right? It starts really in the womb, but it starts with our parents and our family, and then it goes on with our culture and our society, the state we were raised in, the country we grew up in, right? All of these things begin to inform our subconscious mind and create a "this is who I am" sort of sense, right? Which may or may not be true, right? And it creates this sense of certain things are factual, right? Because, if you grew up and your family was struggling financially, and so you're always having these experiences of what that means and what it looks like, your subconscious mind is starting to receive messages about what's true about money and how money works and how money is scarce, right? So your subconscious mind is receiving all of these things, right? Now, the conscious mind is the thinker, right? It's the aspect of our mind that actually can choose, right? We talked about the translation in the Newer Revised Standard Version of that verse from Job, right? You shall decree a thing and it shall be. But that the translation, you shall decide on a matter, right? That's what the conscious mind does, right? So there comes a point in time, right, where you may have grown up with a certain money story. You may have grown up with a certain beliefs about money, and you come to an awareness and say, I believe something different about money, right? You're making use of your conscious mind, and now you're beginning to impress a new story, a new consciousness upon the subconscious mind, right? So the conscious mind is the thing that leads, guides, and directs. The subconscious mind receives impressions and then generates. That's the other part about the subconscious mind. It's always generating based on the information that it receives. Okay? And then we have this third aspect, which Florence Govashin calls the superconscious mind, which is the God mind, right? It is that mind which knows all, sees all. It is that thing where all things are possible. But not only that, everything, whether it already exists or doesn't, it exists in that mind. So before airplanes existed and flight as we understand it and experience it in this 21st century, it already existed fully and completely within the mind of God, in the superconscious mind, right? It's important to know that exists, that the God mind exists because that's then what we cast our burdens on. That is then where we receive insight, where we receive guidance, where we receive direction, where we receive answers to questions or to problems that we may have, right? And so it's important to understand these three aspects and how they work, because that really informs the rest of the text, really, because we're always dealing in these three aspects of mind and learning how to make use of our conscious mind, right? And impress our subconscious mind with those things that are desirable. And then also understanding that our subconscious mind already has a whole bunch of stories and things going on. So then when we have experiences in life and we're like, I don't know what's going on, why are these things happening to me? Right? We don't ask that question, why is this happening to me?
And the beautiful thing about this level of awareness that there are these three aspects of mind operating is because then you're no longer stuck in the experience. You have compassion, you get curious, the 2 C's, as I like to say, and you apply that curiosity. Oh, wait, there must be something in my subconscious, some conditioning, some old story that is continually being reinforced and experienced in my life. I don't beat myself up for that awareness. I don't beat myself up for the unwanted experiences, right? We don't do that. What I do is realize that if that mind could be programmed, conditioned, it can also be reconditioned. Right?
Absolutely.
And so nothing in that way has to remain. Those core beliefs, unless they are wanted, do not have to remain. That is the beauty of being an adult at this point and having an understanding of a conscious mind, a chooser. I can change any unwanted belief. I can let go of it. I can even, more importantly, have compassion for myself that this thing has been operating like unwanted software, running in the background for my entire life. And we don't have the benefit like, Apple automatically updates stuff and remind you, oh, update this. We don't have that benefit until we have an experience that's unwanted and we realize it's time to update some software, some beliefs within me.
Right. And the other thing that's beautiful about that, this is where you have control, right? Because when things are happening in your life and the unwanted shows up, it could be an illness, it could be a job loss, it could be, a breakup, all these sorts of things start to happen, and you feel helpless and hopeless in that moment, right? And you feel powerless, right? But the beauty of this is that when you understand these three aspects of mind and understand the power that you have, this is where you can exercise control, right? No, you can't make these humans outside of you. You can't control them to do anything. You can't control a government. You can't control a corporation, right? You can't control that person that was driving and cut you off, right? But you can control your choice, right? And you can begin to practice it. And so, right, the outpicturing is showing us what's been conditioned in our minds. And the other thing, we love to say it all the time, is our prayer and desire for you is to lower your threshold for pain.
Absolutely.
Right? Why do I say that? Because the contents of our mind, it's always expressing, right? It's always outpicturing, but we ignore it or we try to explain it away, right? And so it has to get loud and louder and louder till we pay attention. And so one of the finer points of this that you can start to learn to practice is tapping into those subtler taps and gentle nudges and the still small voice that's saying, hey, you have some beliefs about yourself being lovable or not that you want to check into, right? Before it turns into a traumatic or dramatic experience.
And just as we begin to lower our threshold for pain, what we also do is raise our level of expectation for good. Right? It's interesting. Usually what happens is we keep raising our threshold for pain. When we want to lower that and raise our threshold, our expectation level for good, for love, for life working out for us. And that does require letting go of some of those subconscious beliefs that keep showing up in our lives.
Right.
But it's when we lower, we have to also, when we let go of something, we have to put something in its place. We lower our threshold for pain, we increase our level of expectation for good.
Yeah. Yep. Very important. I love that. I love that. So, one of the next things, one of the things that I have on my list, and it's something that we've talked about a lot, and this is probably on your list too, is casting the burden. Right?
Oh, man,
Right.
that was mine too.
So casting the burden, of course, there's a whole chapter dedicated to
Yes.
it. Now, it happens to be, personally one of my favorites,
Mine
right?
too.
I can literally, and I can go back, you could look in my journal like even a couple months ago, right? I was casting the burden in my journal, right? Like I live this, I practice this, right? Now, what does Florence Scovel's Chin teach us, right? The prayer, the affirmation, the declaration is powerful. I cast this burden on the mind of God and I go free. Okay? Now, use whatever word for God feels good for you, right? I cast this burden on the mind of love and I go free, right? The super conscious mind and I go free.
Infinite intelligence and I go free.
Right,
Whatever
whatever
works.
it is, right? The other thing is you can name the burden, right?
Yep.
I cast this negative bank account balance on the mind of God and I go free. I cast this argument that I just had with my mother on the mind of God and I go free, right? I cast this question that I have about what am I going to do next or how am I going to pay this bill on the mind of God and I go free. Okay? And that second part is important, right? The I go free. Right? Because that is an indicator of truly releasing it.
Right.
Right? If
And-
you're still holding the burden, you ain't free.
You ain't free. And it's beautiful because in that chapter she talks about cast the burden until you're free.
Yes.
We start to judge ourselves because we still feel anxiety or worry or doubt or we still feel some burden around something. Keep casting. I also love in that chapter how she talks about man violates the law if he carries a burden.
Yeah.
I'm in violation of the law of my good when I'm holding on to something. Right? Not that I'm going to be punished for that, but it's a violation of the way it's supposed to work. If anything, remember that. If I am burdened, I'm in violation of the free flow of life and of God and how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be hard to receive because of the way life outpictures and the way we've learned to experience and see life, right? That, things are supposed to be hard and tough and, you're supposed to have burdens and, life ain't fair. And,
Life ain't been no crystal stair.
Right.
It's true.
Right. And so, and so what's interesting about that, even the context of Langston Hughes writing that, Mother to Son, right? But there's a knowingness of all of us that it's supposed to be different.
It's supposed to be different.
Right? That thing within us as we are in this time of freedom that I like to call it, June, beginning of June, we start Pride Month, Juneteenth, through July 4th, right? We're in this consciousness that's reminding us of these truths that we hold to be self-evident, which still are self-evident, right? There's a freedom, there's an ease, there's a joy, there's a liberty that we all know at the depth of our being we are supposed to experience. We're not supposed to be carrying burdens.
We're not.
Right? God did not design us that way. Right? One of the things I'm also reminded, one of the things that we learn through practicing transcendental meditation is the body really does have the ability to release stress.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not managing. We're not managing our
Right.
stress.
Right.
And we're not managing our burdens.
Exactly.
If we
That's a
can-
whole word. Somebody, I hope you're hearing that today. Right?
We're
not
not-
managing our
We're
burdens.
not managing our burdens.
Right?
Now, and the other part of that is because the way the mind works, we think if the mind is actively worrying, stressing, doubting, and fearing, we are managing it. We are doing something about it.
Right.
In fact, we are interfering with the natural process of release and the expectation level rising to receive the good.
Right.
Problems get bigger when I resist them because I'm trying to take control. Who said that? Who sang that? Right? I bless it and I go free.
So this is very important, to learn to begin to live in this type of practice, right? Knowing that there's something you can do, right? When you're in the midst of a burden, when you're in the midst of a challenge, when you're in the midst of an unwanted experience or an unwanted thing, right? It's important that you come to yourself and then begin to work this, right? So the other part, right, is it reminds me of, the story of Jacob wrestling with the angel, right? I won't let go until you bless my soul, right? So you continue to pray this, you continue to affirm this until you feel free, until you feel the release.
Absolutely.
Right? So you keep, if you need to affirm it out loud and pray it out loud, and you want to cry and snot, do that till you feel free, right?
It's so interesting. You were talking about writing down a burden, a perceived burden, right? Because we're not supposed to carry anything. I was doing it a couple weeks ago, and for a whole week, I wrote it down, and then I ripped the paper up. I didn't put it in my journal for something permanent. I wrote it down on a piece of paper, everything it was, for 7 days, and each day I would rip it up. PG heard me ripping up paper. He's like, "What in the world is going on?" I was like,
know what she was
he ain't know what I was doing. But intuitively, I had to have that visceral experience. I had to hear it leaving me. I had to feel the release. And so I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, and then I ripped it up. And as I was ripping it up, in my mind, I was saying, I cast this burden on the mind of God and I go free. So that's what I was doing.
Got you. It's all good, right? But and I'm one of the things that I hope you all take away from this part when we're talking about casting the burden. This is not we're not saying, oh, it's light and cute, like, oh, I have a problem. Okay, let me get spiritual. Right. I cast the burden on the mind. Like, no, right? You're in the midst of the experience, right? But you're also consciously, powerfully letting it go.
Right. It's that feeling of the energy, right? You can't destroy energy, but you can transmute it.
Exactly.
You can transmute it through affirmative thought. You can transmute it through writing. You can transmute it through ripping up the paper. Whatever it needs, through dance.
Right.
If you are in that place where the body feels like you need to move to release it, do that. Find the way of casting the burden that works for you. Yeah. It don't have to be pretty. It just has to work for you.
Exactly. You just have to work it, because it's going to work for you. It's going to work for you, right? It's law, but you got to work it.
You got to work it.
Right. And so, right, this is really not about being pretty or deep or spiritual or, I'm going to sit and burn my incense and do my affirmation.
If that works for you.
No,
I just feel like when it's that intense, when you feel the burden,
saying.
You need something intensity and energy to match it.
Right. I want to be in the real, keep it real moment, right? Right. When it's serious,
When
right?
it's serious.
When you got, a pile of bills and no money in the bank, right? I can't remember how my brother says it. Oh Lord, you got more month left than you got check, right? There's more month left than what you got in the bank, right? That kind of thing, right? That's the real. We've been through the real. We've experienced the real.
And we're talking about practical ways of approaching your spirituality, right? Non-judgment, that curiosity, that compassion. Find the ways of release that work for you. Fill up your toolkit with what works. And you only know it works for you if you try it.
Yep.
Because we can give you 100 ways to cast the burden. If you don't take one of them, you still carrying the burden and you don't even know if this is real or not. We know it's real.
Yeah.
And we want you to know it's real.
Yeah. So there's that over and over and again, and it goes back to understanding these three aspects of mind. I'm reminded how Napoleon Hill says the only known ways, right, for success, right, is through repeated affirmation, right, to the subjective mind or the subconscious mind, right, that the way our mind works, just like if you developed a sense of low self-esteem because maybe there was there was emotional abuse and someone kept speaking all these things, negative words to you, wasn't the first time that it was like, oh, I believe this about myself, or you start changing how you show up in the world because one person, one time, it was a lot of times who the person was, and then the repetition of it, right? That's what impresses your
Right.
subconscious mind.
And especially as children, we
Oh,
don't
my Lord.
have the ability to filter the kinds of images and ideas that are being pressed upon ourselves. But as adults, we do. We can decide not to allow something to impress. We can decide to release something that has been impressed.
Right? And so this is also why, this is, as pastors, we got to say this, right? This is also why it is important that we're mindful of the things that we're consuming, whether it's social media, movies we watch, TV we watch, etc. It's not, all things are neutral in truth, right? But we also understand that when we continue to, feed our minds with certain things, I use this example all the time because I see it all the time, right? I see folks that want to be in a relationship, they want a loving partner, spouse, lover, and yet they tend to be watching a lot of things that are the exact opposite of what they want, right? And then don't realize why things aren't matching up, right? Because you're literally impressing your subconscious mind with a reality. And again, the subconscious mind, it doesn't have a sense of humor. It doesn't judge. It doesn't have a filter. It takes what it receives and begins to create from it without hesitation, without judgment, right? So this is why it's important that we surround ourselves with things and experiences or shows that reflect the life that we want to experience. I was thinking about this, I guess, because we just had Father's Day. One of the things that I recognize, and one of the reasons that I'm so grateful for my dad and my grandfathers, is that as I was maturing as a young man in my 20s, and I ain't know nothing, and I was immature, I became a father at 25. But what I had was those three men had impressed these things upon my subconscious, that there were things that I was doing because I had seen them do it. There were ways that I was being because I had seen them be that way. So even as I was growing and still making mistakes and maturing and becoming who I am and will be in the future, part of what saved me, right, and part of what allowed me to be capable to the extent that I was that I had all of this experience of watching those three men, right, be fathers, be grandfathers, be men, be leaders, be entrepreneurs. All of that stuff supported me, as I was moving through my life. That was the subconscious impression, right? And so I understand why it's so important that in this case, why young men need to have men in their lives. That simply, it's not always about just stopping and teaching you something, right? A lot of times it's just about, I get to observe you and I'm starting to take in certain ideas of what it means to be a man.
And it's also important to know that even if you didn't receive that as a child and in your youth, you can consciously now look for those examples and impress your own mind with those examples. I remember, my grandfather, who was my father figure. It's interesting, by the way, that a lot of things that I observed him, even in those 10 short years doing, PG does.
Wow.
And it sometimes it startles me, and I'm like, wait, what is this? But also I realized that was a period in time, but there was a whole lot more life that I had to recondition. And so I began to look for examples of men who were the things that I wanted to experience in my life. So it was a combination of those things. If you didn't have it growing up, male or female,
Right.
seek out those examples that are the thing that you want to impress upon the subconscious.
Exactly.
It's never too late because we're always impressing. We're always conditioning. We get to decide now what we want to keep and what we want to let go of.
Absolutely. So, cast the burden.
That was both of ours, by the way. That was on my list too.
But you know.
That's chapter 6 in the book. If you want to just go back to that chapter.
Right. So what's something else that you want to make sure we highlight?
We've kind of touched on it, but it was in chapter 7. Suffering is not required by God.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it.
We kind of talked about it, but I want to talk about it a little bit more because it's not necessary for our development as humans or as spiritual beings.
Yeah.
Again, it is another violation of spiritual law that we suffer. And usually, as we've said, the only way that we find out we've been suffering is because we've been hit over the head with the brick for so long. We don't have to do that.
Right.
We don't.
And you know, part of this is like that story, the story of the ham. Y'all know the story of the ham, right? Where there's a woman who's with her mom, and they're making a dinner, and they're making a ham, and her mother is like, oh, you know, make sure you cut off the end of the ham before you put it in the pan.
I always saw that happen.
Right. And so this was a thing, but then the daughter was like, well, why are we cutting off the end of the ham? Like, what is that? Right? Why are we doing that? Does that make it taste better or whatever? She said, no, that's just what we've always done. That's what you do. Now, going back in the story, what originally happened, the mother learned it from her mother, who also cut the end of the ham. But the reason is because the only pan she had was too small. And so in order for the ham to fit, she always had to cut a little piece of it off to fit it into that one specific pan. But that became the family habit. And so it was like the ham isn't right. It wouldn't even taste right to them, right, until they cut off that end. And I think that's what happens with us with suffering.
Yep.
Right?
Suffering is a big old ham.
Right.
That we cut in the ends.
Right. That because so many people have believed
Yes.
that suffering is required. This is why we've elevated this idea of the dark night of the soul, right, as some deep spiritual thing.
Or required.
A required thing, right.
For your growth, yes.
Right. And so, but what's true, you can go back to the sermon, it was a few Decembers ago, the Silent Night of the Soul, right, where I talked about that idea that Eckhart Tolle shares. He's like, you don't need a dark night of the soul, right?
And many spiritual teachers that we all have elevated to this level of mastery will say that. Mm-hmm. I've heard
required.
Byron Katie say it. I've heard Eckhart Tolle say it. I've heard a lot of spiritual teachers say, you know, this happened for me, but it's not required.
It's not required, right? And so that's the part that we're missing, right? That the suffering has happened. Like, yeah, we see that, right? And we elevate, we watch the lives of stars or people that have made an impact on the world. And it's like, oh, you know, I gotta
Suffer for my art. Suffer for love.
Yeah, that reminds me, I'm gonna look up a tweet from Casey Gerald. He talked about that very thing.
It is interesting. We don't have to suffer. And because society we've all agreed that suffering is required for success. Mm-hmm. We tend to talk about the moments, those moments during the process or the journey where there was a hard or a challenge. And then we elevate it above our joy. Mm-hmm. Don't limit your joy expression. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. I'll see people go on amazing vacations and you ask them about their vacation. And the first thing they say, well, the line was long, the flight was delayed. They give you the list of limitations and limiting beliefs so that they can justify the joy that they had, the lovely time that they had, so that they don't feel bad that they got to go and you didn't. It's all of those things.
Right. Yep.
We don't have to do that. We could just say, I had an amazing vacation. If you ever want to go to XYZ, I'm the person to reach out to. I got all the hookups, all the places, all the restaurants you should try. But the more we begin to let our light shine, and Marion Williamson, we give permission to other people to let their light shine.
Do the same.
The less we talk about our suffering in the terms of it was required to get to this success. Now, does suffering happen? Does challenge happen? Yes, but it is not required. God is not requiring that of you.
No.
It's almost as if, Course in Miracles talks about the idea that we put so much emphasis on the crucifixion and we forget the resurrection.
There we go.
We put all of our energy into the pain of it, as opposed to the joy of it, of the rising above it, of the creating a new experience in our lives of it. And so we keep conditioning the pain.
Yep. It was Casey Gerald, who, of course, you all know we love, Black Art of Escape, a powerful black gay man. But he wrote this week, he said, I want to have a big, beautiful, happy life and let great art flow from that. I reject the idea that we need to be miserable, alone, and or dysfunctional in order to make great work.
Yes.
Right? And that lie, that big lie is the lie that pervades society and pervades, success consciousness. right? There's this video going around of Steve Harvey talking about rich people don't sleep. Right? You know, this underlying idea of like, you know, you want to be successful, and it's just, yeah, it's not required.
If rich people ain't sleeping, it ain't because they got money.
Right.
It's because they have thoughts about their money or their partner or their business that's keeping them awake. Or they have limiting beliefs that they can't hold on to, keep their money and their power and their success. It's not the money.
Right.
So this is an important point.
Very important. I love that.
That's in chapter 7.
Yeah. So one of the other things that I wanted to bring to us was the idea of definite leads. This is the chapter on intuition and guidance, right? So we're aligned. This is great.
We're aligned because this is my next one too.
Right. And the thing that I love about that, right, it embodies the song that I wrote, and you can find it on our YouTube channel, Show Me clearly, clearly show me, I will wait for thee. So first is, I recognize that some of us may have not really heard that we can say, God, life source, infinite intelligence, give me a definite lead. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do next. I know I need to make a choice. It might be choosing between two places of employment, as the story that Florence Scovelson shares, right? And I just don't know which one to do. Or, you know, I'm multi-talented and I want to use one of these talents as my perfect self-expression right now, but I don't know which one. Show me, right? And that show me is really a demand, right? It's not a, you know, God, if you have some time, I was
just thinking, maybe
you know, I could really use some help right now. That's not what it is. Because there's an understanding, this is why the 3 aspects of mind are so important, understanding that you are intimately and intricately connected to the superconscious mind, a connection that can never be severed.
Never.
Ever, 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 ever.
And if it
Right?
feels like it is, it's because you turned away from the connection. Again, no judgment.
Right.
Awareness so that we can correct. We can correct, self-correct.
Right. And so this is very important for us to understand that not only are we never alone, but in truth, we are never without direction.
Oh, so good.
Right?
If you feel directionless, just take a breath and wait. Demand and then wait.
Right? I've heard the acronym for God, I think it's from Lavanda, good orderly direction. Right? You're never without direction. And again, this is one of the beauties of New Thought philosophy, right? That I think is unique in what we bring to the world, is this idea of that God is within us, that we are always connect. God is right here, right now. Right? Neither comes nor goes. Y'all hear me pray that and speak that all the time.
Talk a little bit about neither comes nor goes.
Neither comes nor goes. Right here, right now, just like the air we breathe.
Here.
Just like the air we breathe.
We don't have to seek it out. We just have to know it's there and align with it. Neither comes nor goes. So when we're in the middle of our challenge, it's there.
Right. And this challenges, a theology and even a way of worshiping that many of us, have grown up with, right? The idea that we had to praise God into the room. Right, that God would show up, but He inhabits the praises of His people, right? So that must mean that we have to praise and stomp and clap and tambourine. That's not a verb, but I like that. We have to tambourine God into the room,
as opposed to realizing the reason we're praying because God is already there.
Exactly.
That's the reason we can praise, because we feel it alive within us.
Right.
That's the reason our ancestors were praising.
Right.
They weren't summoning it.
Exactly.
They were allowing it. They were expressing it. They were feeling it. They were celebrating it. They were honoring it already in them.
So that idea of God inhabits the praises of the people means that God is there always, but that God is always right here, right now, always.
So important.
I love it. I first learned it and heard it through Neville Goddard, and it just blew my mind. Right? God is the I am that I am. Can you say I am and point outside of yourself? Right? I can't be like, I am pretty, right? If I'm talking about me, you know what I'm saying? If I'm saying I am, I have to be talking about me. I wouldn't say I am pretty and I want to tell Yolanda that she's pretty. I would say you are pretty. You are beautiful, right? We recognize that. It's like right there, right in front of our face. The use of I am must
Always
come
comes back to you.
in, right?
The use of I am always comes
Lord have
back to
mercy.
you. And so whether you use I am in the affirmative or the negative, it's always there within you. It's always a prayer. It's always an affirmative truth. And you're always experiencing the I am right within you.
Absolutely. 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 So you're connected to infinite intelligence. You know, the other thought that just came to me, you know, there's something that I think we don't understand is that all of us are spiritually gifted, right? Some of us, you know, allow or tap into those gifts more readily for different reasons, but all of us are tapped into and connected to infinite intelligence, right? And so develop and practice this intuition and guidance, right? And look at this chapter, right? As she talks about in the text, and we're saying there's nothing wrong with seeking out knowledge and wisdom and information and counsel, all of that, right? There are people that I go to and seek out counsel, you know, when I'm led and guided, right? Because there's the other thing. If I'm asking for the answer, and then I'm led to reach out to someone, right?
And you don't take the advice they give you.
Right. See, that's right. See, and that's really but that's really the thing. Like, that's how I use counsel and you know, seeking folks who are trained in certain modalities.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm led to reach out to this astrologer, right? I'm led to reach out to this person for a reading because I already tapped into recognizing that I have intuition and guidance, and now I'm being led to call this person. Now I'm being led to reach out. So it's still, that starting point starts with your connection with the all that is.
It has to.
But know that answer, because you're connected to the superconscious mind, that thing that you had never thought of or never considered, you know, is showing up right here and right now, right? I'm going to paraphrase this. There was a quote I saw from Ray Dalio this week that was saying, you know, we should seek the best answer, not the best answer you can come up with. Right. And so often that's what we do. Like, well, this is the best answer I
sounds
can.
good to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is all I got. It's the best answer I can come up with. No, you're connected to superconscious mind. You could actually get the best answer.
The best answer.
Right. Don't rely on your own strength.
I love this chapter. Wait on your intuition and guidance. Speak the word and wait. Infinite Spirit, reveal to me the way. Let me know if there is anything for me to do. And the anything might be call this person. The anything might be still and know.
Yeah. Yeah, be still is always in there somewhere. It's always in there somewhere. You got to be still.
You got to be still.
All right, we only have about 15 minutes. So what you got?
We've kind of, again, I think we've kind of talked about a lot of these, but it's important to bring our minds back to them. And that is, each of us is a perfect self-expression.
Yes. Yeah.
Each of us is a perfect self-expression. You don't have to go out and feel like you don't have purpose or are not on purpose. You started out as a perfect expression. From divine mind, from infinite intelligence. You know, the mind we go to get the answers. You are the answer. You came as a perfect expression of that mind. Many of us are waiting, quote unquote, on our purpose. Many of us are waiting on someone else to help us find our purpose. They can facilitate, but you gotta start from the place of I'm already a perfect self-expression. What I'm doing now is revealing that perfect self-expression in multiple ways. Multiple ways.
Yep.
And so you're no longer the end. When I become this particular thing, then I'm gonna be an expression of God. You started as it, you're going to leave as it, and everything in between is it. When you show up, wherever you show up, you're the perfect expression, and you're on purpose.
And so she talks about the square of life. This was one of the ones I wanted to check in on. Because in teaching it this time, I'm hearing it and seeing it anew. I think I'm going to incorporate this into the 90 Days to Greatness at the end of the year, because she highlights these 4 quadrants, again, what she calls the square of life: health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. And one of the things I love that we talked about in that chapter is this idea of you can always operate in perfect self-expression that will look different, right? I use the example of being a parent, right? Who and what I am as a parent is very different, right, to an almost 20-year-old in college versus when she was a little baby in diapers, right, and moving through those changes, right, or when she couldn't walk, or when she was learning to walk, right. I don't even have to, like, she can get around. She's literally traveled the world. Like, she can get around by herself. Like, I don't have to think in those terms in the ways that you think about as a parent, right? So I had that self-expression, in the early stages of changing diapers and bottles and blah, 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 and we move each stage, there's a different self-expression. And eventually, your expression as a parent is different, right? And there's a different type of relationship. Talking to my dad on his birthday the other day, we just talked. We just FaceTimed and talked. And that was actually one of the things that we talked about, was how it's amazing this different space and place of our relationship, right? We're 2 men relating, right? And it's beautiful. So we recognize that we always have the opportunity, I would say, to operate in our perfect self-expression, but that will look different. Sometimes day to day it can look different, right? But year to year, stage to stage of life, it's going to look different. But even if you're retired, right? If you're one of our seasoned citizens, perfect self-expression, that quadrant still needs to be, managed and understood. And how am I perfectly expressing God in, through, and as me now? And so I think it's wonderful to have those quadrants to begin to look at and start to examine your life. What's going on with my health? What's going on with my wealth, my finances? Love, of course, is not just romantic relationships. It's all relationships and friendships, right? And then perfect self-expression, which is not employment.
Or
And that's important.
choice.
Or career choice. Because that's where we limit ourselves and thus limit God.
Right. If you're a perfect self-expression with unlimited potential, there might be things that you uncover now that you're willing and allowing that you would have never, ever allowed yourself to intuitively be led to do as this perfect self-expression.
It happens for everyone. We were watching, OWN did this wonderful tribute to fathers, Black Kings, last week, and watching Dwayne Wade and him talk about not only his role as a father, but his career, right? And understanding he didn't realize it until he retired from basketball, that basketball was just the stepping stone. Like, he thought basketball was who he was. He thought that was his purpose. He thought that was his perfect self-expression. But he understands now, and this is why he's navigating in these beautiful ways. He's expressing in all of these different ways that, were uncommon for athletes, at one time. But he's operating in perfect self-expression now, right? And he realizes that, he's able to use his platform, his notoriety, to make an impact on the planet, right? To make the world a better place, right? A world that works for everyone. And so it's beautiful when we get to watch folks like this, right? And then you have LeBron James, who's still in the NBA, who is expressing in multiple ways, right? He's already ahead of the curve, right? Because he's watched others do it. It's beautiful.
Right. Look for those examples in your own life, or those people that you admire, and fill in that square. See how the ways that they're showing up as a perfect expression, right, for you. You don't have to be them, but you have to realize that it is happening out there in the world.
Yeah, and really be mindful of the square. So I have one more. I don't know what you have.
I got one more.
Okay, what you got?
Activate your faith.
Okay, good one. Jerry curl, dry Jerry curl. Activate
Please
your
don't
faith.
go around with a dry Jerry curl. Don't let your really what? We don't get more faith.
Right.
If anyone is teaching you, I can help you get more faith. You don't get more faith. You need to activate the faith you have. And sometimes in activating the faith that you have, you use a bridge,
Yes.
as Florence Scovel Shin said in the book. The pink paperweight was a bridge. She found something. She was led to something. Again, see how all these
All works
chapters,
together.
these things are working together? She was led. I need to buy this pink paperweight as a representation, showing me physically what it's going to feel like when I open up all these checks. So activate your faith.
And so the last one that I want to leave us with is the idea that she gives us about what is yours by divine right. And when you're praying, praying for those things to come in perfect ways, through grace, in perfect ways, right? It's so incredibly important. I'm reminded of a prayer that I've prayed around releasing debt, right? And one of the things I said was that, right, one of the things I added was that, you know, my debt is released and forgiven and erased through harmonious channels, right? Because if I just said it was erased, right, I believe and I know that the law will work, right? And it would begin to
be painful,
right? It could be really painful, right? The debt would be cleared, but it could be very painful.
Could be hard, could be a trial, could be...
And particularly if I have filled my subconscious mind with all of the negative ways that something like that could happen, right? I'm reminded of a story of a friend told me once about they're seeking a certain amount of money and wanting a new home, but not clarifying through grace in perfect ways. And unfortunately, they had a fire, right? The family was safe, right? But they lost their home. The money that came as a result of that, they were able to buy the new home. It was their dream home, right? Beautiful, right? Wonderful story. You know what I'm saying? Like, it got to that point in the story of what it was that they wanted. But we have the opportunity. It goes back really to this idea of suffering, right? And that, the only way for me to get good things, right, is for some calamity or tragedy to happen. I'm reminded of Lorraine Hansberry and A Raisin in the Sun, right? Tragedy, right, is at the heart of the story, right? As the patriarch.
It makes sense in the story, and it makes sense in our lives, generation upon generation upon generation, of living through tragedy, of living through trauma. It makes sense. But what if we're the generation to not live through trauma? We're the generation to create from this place of expectation of good. What if that's what we're here to do?
Right. And so what is ours by divine right? When we think about justice and equality, right? One of the ways that folks are being gaslit is this idea of, if you're equal and have all your rights, somehow someone else is not going to have all of their rights, right? And unfortunately, there are people that believe this, right? To the extent,
limitation mindset.
Right, right. So much so that, we had an insurrection this year, right? But this is important to understand, like, what is yours by divine right? James Brown said, we won't quit until we get our share. That's what we say. What is ours by divine right? That's all we saying, right? We're not talking about taking something from anybody else, right? And when I say we, whether that's black people, whether that's LGBT family, whether that's women, whether they're people that are differently able, equality is equality, and we all have our share, and there's more than enough, because what is ours by divine right is ours.
Right. It's almost as if we're not sharing one pie. We each have our own pie. Right? So we've been conditioned to believe that there's only so much to go around,
right,
and this one pie has to be divided amongst all of us. But what if we all get our own pie?
That's the truth in consciousness.
Right? So I'm not dividing it up. I'm not in fear that you're going to take mine. I get my pie. Maybe mine's apple. And yours is cherry.
Right.
Yours is sweet potato.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's that understanding. There ain't but one pie.
Right.
There's not one flavor of pie.
Right.
There's a pie for everyone's desire, for everyone's taste.
Yep. And for generations to come.
Generations to come. The recipe gets handed down so you can make your own pie.
Yeah. And so as a society,
ham stories, pie stories, we use them
and so
all.
as a society, we have some catching up to do in consciousness, right? To align with what God knows to be true,
Yes.
right? And what God is always seeking to express in, through, and as us, right? It's true on the individual level. It's true on the cultural level. It's true on a national, international level, right? There's more than enough. There's more than enough. The universe has more than enough. It's a song I wrote that's been in my head. One day we'll sing it. Right? Every need is supplied to live abundant life. We are all God's children. We are all divine. Every need is supplied to live abundant life. There is more than enough. Right? That's the truth of life. Always is, always was, and forever shall be.
Right. And those people that don't know that are the ones that end up oppressing others.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that in their fear appropriate from others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't know that there's more than enough. They don't
Right.
know that there's a pie for everyone.
Yep. 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 And so, with that, we're going to say amen, ashe, and so it is. I encourage you, for those who have missed any of the weeks, to go back and again, read the chapter, right? And then watch the class. Weeks 1 through 10, chapters 1 through 10. As with the last year's masterclass, all of this will remain available on YouTube and Facebook while we are virtual. Eventually, it will be hosted on another platform and available for purchase. But right now, get it, watch it,
As many
study
times
it.
as you want.
Right? Yeah.
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 This has been a fun series. I hope you all have enjoyed it as much as we've had fun allowing it to come through us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in this moment, it is time for giving. You may have already seen the information on the screen. It's very easy to give to CSC. So just go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or you can just scroll down to the giving section. If you would like to text to give, it's very easy. Just text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. There is a $10 minimum for text to give. We appreciate your gifts. Of course, they allow CSC to continue to be and continue to share and continue to express all that we express. It is through your support, okay? And we appreciate that. Also know that your giving is part of a cycle, right? Giving and receiving, as I quoted Reverend Sheila McKeithen the other week, right? Giving has a sister. Her name is receiving, right? So know that this is part of a conscious cycle, right? That you're not giving just to be nice. You're not giving because you love CSC, right? All of that may be true. But also, this is spiritual practice. Giving is spiritual practice, right? And what does that mean? When we give what feels good, when we give from a consciousness of joy, when we give from a consciousness of more than enough, when we give from a consciousness of recognizing that however we receive our income, it's a resource, right? But it comes from the source. Giving from that consciousness, then we are planting seeds of prosperity and abundance in our life. And so as we give, we receive. As we give, we should expect to receive, right? They go hand in hand, right? Giving and receiving are one in truth, right? And so we encourage you to look for your good, as PY reminded us, right? Yes. Raising our expectation.
Raise that expectation.
Right? Look for good to show up, and I'm just living proof. It shows up in so many ways. Yes, it shows up as money and unexpected checks and all of that good stuff. Yes, it happens. It's real, right? And it also shows up as, meet your financial responsibilities, and you still got more money, and you're not really sure how or why that happened, but thank God. And you're just in that flow. That's real. But it also shows up as sometimes you need to get moved to the front of the line. Something is going on. Right? It shows up as somebody treats you to lunch. It shows up as somebody gives you a call at the right time and reaches out.
Somebody opens a door for you.
Yes, right?
Yeah,
right.
Do not underestimate the ways in which you are constantly receiving. Look for them.
Yes, yeah. It shows up as unexpected sales. I can't count the number of times there was something that I wanted. I knew I wanted it. I was going to get it. Really didn't matter how much it cost because I was going to pay whatever it cost because I wanted it. And then when I went to pay for it, it was on sale, like deep sales sometimes. And it's like, how did that happen? But I know how it happened, right? we're always receiving, always receiving, always receiving.
And not because we're good or we have to suffer.
Yes.
The law says we must receive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We hope that you enjoy the remainder of your Sunday in whatever way you wish to celebrate. Unfortunately, we don't have the Pride March this year, but it will be back next year, and that will be exciting. I think that the energy is going to be really high,
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
after 2 years of not having the Pride Parade. So celebrate, love on each other, affirm each other, and we love you and see you. Again, we will not be live next week, but we will be streaming content. So we encourage you to enjoy your holiday in whatever way you see fit. I think I'm going to make my way out to the hot dog eating contest next week in Coney Island. It's one of my favorite things about the 4th. I can tell you it's very true. So I think I might probably go out there and do that. And then, of course, just enjoy summer food and all that good stuff.
Yes, remember you couldn't be more worthy or more loved by God. I am God's pride and joy.
Yes.
Live that today.
Absolutely. Love y'all.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, bye for now.